Welcome back, everyone. Curtis, you see I'm still donning a cap.
It's not the same one you were wearing. I'm in the same cap. You're in a different one.
I've moved on because here we are now in the future, and I've come to learn that the Detroit Tigers would not be winning the World Series. So I've moved on to better pastures, I think. And you're probably thinking, well, Michigan football is no great shakes this year. But it's basketball season and spring, hope springs eternal, right?
Yeah.
And
Good
I shall reveal the real reason for why I've been wearing caps low these many weeks, but it'll have to come at the end of an episode, maybe even this episode.
Got some theories.
Anyways, well, enough of that. So welcome back, everyone, to Bullhorns and Bullseyes. And speaking of welcoming back, I need to bring back someone from my past and my current and hopefully my future. Someone I go way back with, Curtis. I understand you connected with her in 2018, which we may come back to. But this is my old friend, not old, but old-time friend, Janet Tyler. Janet, welcome back into my life and welcome to Bullhorns and Bullseyes.
Thank you, Tom. Hello. Glad to be here.
Good. Yeah, so Janet today is the co-founder and president of True Depth, right? We're going to get into what True Depth does, but you have all sorts of experience. We have a resume that rivals mine in length, far surpasses it in quality. But we'll go through. You and I first got together way back when you hired me at a local public relations firm way back in 1998.
Yes, I like to say I'm a PR person in recovery for many years now. No longer practicing that art necessarily.
Same. Well, let's talk about the art that you are practicing and the science. And we've been reading that you've been writing about agency reinvention, disruption. What is driving what you're finding in terms of agency disruption or just reinvention these days?
Well, I can tell you, I think the agency model, Tom, back when you and I were working together, we'll leave the year out, but it was a while ago, to say the least. That agency model, I don't think it exists anymore. Those, slower timelines, less technology that the agencies had been using in the past or maybe trying to start to embrace. AI would be probably one of those. Lots of middlemen, tons of meetings, layers of people. I just don't think that exists anymore. And I think we're going to see a lot fewer agencies, but hopefully stronger, better, faster agencies in the future, whatever that model looks like. One thing I do know, agencies of the past are probably not long for the world. If they're not going to disrupt themselves, this environment is certainly coming to disrupt them.
Interesting. Yeah. The one thing you didn't mention, the thing that I did not ever like about the old agency model is the old bait and switch where you get sold by the founder of the firm. And then the first kickoff meeting, you've got some junior level intern. "Hi, I'm going to be running your account." And I'm like, oh, come on. Right. So
It's so true. I mean, and I was part of that machine. There's no doubt about it. I mean, but that just doesn't work anymore. And in fact, when I think about why did I burn out and want to get out of agencies back in 2013 or 14, it's really because I wasn't doing the work anymore. I kind of, as a senior leader, right? You take it's all delegated and you're not really practicing anymore. And I think that I really ended up missing that. But at the time I didn't really see it, but I was like, what am I good at anymore? I'm just dealing with people problems and, whatever, with 65 employees or whatever at one point. I mean, it was just overwhelming.
yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're writing my biography.
Yeah.
Curtis, you, as always, you were ahead of the game here and ahead of the curve because you sort of disrupted this model. How many years ago did you found Kaleidoscope on this very premise?
Yeah, same as Janet. So, I mean, I sort of formed an LLC in 2010 for some side work, but it was in 2013 I gave notice at the 22-person agency that I was managing. And then really the summer of 2014 that I was quote unquote consulting, but had told myself two things. One, I would never work for somebody ever again. We actually had a retirement party for me at that agency I left.
I love it.
So I was 30, 35 years old. We had a retirement party. and two, that I would never have employees again because of the hiring and the delegation. And like, I wasn't doing what I love doing anymore. I was managing people. You mentioned meetings, Janet. I remember I was reading so many Patrick Lencioni books and like Death by Meeting. And there's this like, how do we optimize this model? And all of my employees were frustrated, even just in the way that we were running. We're in so many meetings, we can't even get work done, yet you expect us to get the work done. But they wanted freedoms. And then you had, uh, you know, culture driven, initiatives. And it was like, we want to have fun, but do work. And it was too complicated for me. So it's like, you know what? All I want to do is help people. And so I said, I'm going to consult. And if you want to work with me, great. I told my network. And so what you're going to lean into maybe a little bit here, Tom, is the team lens model, which you shared with me a few years ago. And I sort of accidentally fell into that, um, but didn't do it on purpose. I just had said, I don't ever want to have employees, but I want to work with great people. So how
Yeah.
do I do that?
Yeah, we brought up the Team Lance model last week when we spoke with Brian Clark, who he says he didn't invent the term, but that's how I became aware of it. And it completely clicked with me. I mean, I left, after Janet and I worked together, I went to a startup firm and we got that to about a 30-person firm that I was running, managing at least. And everything you guys both just said, it's like, I'm not doing any time or spending any of my time in the craft. It's like the minute I put my head down, the door knocks. Hey, Tom, you got a minute? And in walks a problem. It's like, oh, come on. So, I did the stupid thing of I decided I'm going to open the hatch. I'm going to jump out of the plane, and on the way down, don't forget to make sure you packed a parachute. So I had no idea what I was doing, right? And I went through another partnership, and then a third. And by the time that third one didn't work out, I realized the problem is you in the mirror. Like, you should not be a partner. You should not be a boss. You should be maybe just the deliverer of a craft or service. So I'm on the non-agency model. You're on the non-agency model. Together, we've got this amoeba defense that we think can apply to just about any problem in the marketing and lead gen world. But so when you say, Janet, that this old agency model is broken, right? It will probably die. Usually, you know, enterprise things or institutions take a long time to die
Yeah.
off, and they probably will. So what replaces it in your view? Is it something like what Curtis and I are doing or something else completely?
Well, I do think what you're doing is very interesting, and I think it's super applicable. But there are a lot of people who still want to build value and have legacy.
Mm.
And not that you can't do that in this model, but it's not something that is probably saleable on the outside. Probably. I mean, I don't know enough about what you guys are doing to,
No.
make a big proclamation like that. But I think it's like the agency of the future is, think of a McKinsey, but real tiny and kind of around, disruption, which is what I think agencies should be doing. So I just don't know if what this old model, which is exactly what we talked about, my junior churn, overworked mid levels, tons of meetings, all of that bloat and overhead. So we need to get scrappier in how we solve problems for clients. Sometimes that's marketing, a marketing challenge or problem, but oftentimes it's help us inspire our team because we need to make this big change, or we've sold the company, help us integrate all of our communications between the different employees or the different uh, you know firms that have been bought that are now going to try to operate as one. I think it would be like where the intersection for me, because I'm tech. My whole career, the somewhat common thread has been technology, and so I think it would be using technology like AI, but leveraging it to our advantage and bringing together. And it could be a core agency model with some team lancers in areas that could be not just AI, but like you guys help me out, like there's the PR piece, there's the change consultancy,
Mhm.
business strategy. And I look back at some of the content, Tom, probably that we worked on. I mean, it really sometimes, oftentimes went beyond just marketing. We would be
Yeah.
writing And then storytelling somewhere has got to fit in there. So I don't know what the agency model of the future is. I do think there is a place for agencies. I just think the old model has
Yeah.
has got to evolve and change. And for those agencies who won't, I don't know what that answer. I may be retired by then. I don't know, 10 years from now. Like if you're trying to operate in an hourly model, like I don't see that happening for long.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to come back to AI in a minute, but I wanted to touch on what you said at the beginning because I think both Curtis and I would both concede that what we've built is not likely not saleable. By design, it's not scalable, right? We want to grow our businesses, but we're not looking to scale, to create something 20, 30. I'm never going back to 20 or 30 people, although that's what Brian Clark said, and then he did do it. But anyways, I don't think I'm ever going back to 20 or 30 people. So um you s- we should mention that you do a ton of M&A work in this space, right? And you're advising companies. Is M&A in the, let's call it the advertising or creative field or whatever, is it as strong now today as it was 10 years ago when I felt like it was really hot? And if so, like what does the future look like? The short-term future, knowing that the agency model is being disrupted, what does it look like from an acquirer standpoint or from a target standpoint?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's private equity right now has very deep pockets, or we say in the industry, dry powder. So they are definitely looking to invest. I think right now, private equity, we're not hearing like, oh, this is a market research firm. We don't want to buy that because we think AI is going to replace it. We're not hearing that yet. So I don't know, and I know we'll get to AI if the market is quite caught up. I see a lot of activity. This is pretty much my bread and butter, although I am working on some other interesting businesses, car dealerships and things. For the most part, I transact professional services firms with a core specialty in marketing services. It's a big part of what I do. But private equity firms have investors. They have they have the cash to invest, and so they're investing in the right firms. And sometimes that means, would they like a 30% margin? Of course they would. But will they do a deal for something that's under 20, but in a very interesting like market segment, or they're doing something unique that might add to the platform that they're building? So you're right in that the big firms, I mean, it's probably not done yet, but there's just been a ton of stuff happening at the top, right? M&A at, what, I won't even mention all these big firms that have been pushed through M&A activity. Now it's about a lot of mid-sized firms layering in and creating these super agencies. So it's market research, it might be public relations, it could be performance marketing, digital and AI, SEO, whatever we're going to call it in the future. Kind of coming together to create these super agencies for an exit on the other side once those are created. But those firms
And
that
do
are
you
being welcomed into those platforms are pretty savvy, and they're in the midst of some form of an evolution. The ones that are selling, in my opinion.
That was going to be my question too, because I have two brothers that are in the insurance agency space, and they've been acquired, still by private company, not PE yet. But the way that they characterize that industry is they're like everyone who's anyone has already been gobbled up. So now it's like they're going after the scraps, which might be a 5-person agency or a 3-person agency. We're not yet to that point, do you think, on the advertising
No,
creative side, or
no, I don't think we're there yet. I think it's probably more, if it's well, no, if it's strategic. So I did just, whatever. This is public knowledge. A Detroit firm, VVK, just did an acqui-hire for a company that I was representing. Very small, right? That's a 5-person, acqui-hire position. Like the strategic connection. When it's a financial buyer, those firms are definitely bigger, but not ginormous either. Maybe $1 million of EBITDA, sometimes less on the private equity side, but that's usually a pretty good. If I'm representing a firm that's under 1 million in EBITDA, sometimes it's difficult to get the attention of that firm's got to be doing something so mind-blowingly different or unique, or I could really shake up private equity with. But if it is, a your standard PR firm doing stakeholder relations and public relations and media relations and maybe some ad
Oh, sorry, I
strategy.
almost fell asleep. Sorry. I
Yeah, I
started to
know.
nod off there. Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry, but it's
No,
true.
it's okay.
Those firms are not
I
gonna
think
move
it's a trigger mechanism to protect me from
the past.
PTSD. So yeah, Curtis. So I'm curious. We've never had a formal like conversation about what your plans are if you have an exit strategy. I do know, without saying too much, that you are working on something that could be very disruptive and interesting that people might be interested in. But since we can't reveal that, anything? What are you thinking in terms of what do you do with this thing that we're building that we're not building?
Right. Yeah. So I've wrestled with, am I an entrepreneur? Because I wasn't really an entrepreneur getting into this, and then sort of came to the conclusion I'm more of a lifestyle entrepreneur. Like I like my job. I love it. I can provide for my family. I've got just enough work to keep me busy. I can keep some other people busy. But I also have, some freedoms and flexibility. And I don't know if you know this, Tom, but earlier this year, I was approached by another agency that's doing roll ups. So if you're familiar with that terminology, Janet, yeah. hmm So uh, it wasn't attractive to me at all because I know if I would have rolled up into that larger agency, they would have worked me like a dog. Because the payout for me is at the end when they now go from being 25 million to 75 million, and then that owner of that company sells, then maybe there's a piece of that pie for me later. But I've got to work like a dog to get that person to that point over the next 5 years so they can do that. And I'm in no interest of doing that.
Yeah.
But I maybe have 5, 10 years left in me of doing this. I either have to be disruptive or my agency will just fizzle away because technology will pass us by in the marketing space. It's just, I mean, why even look at where we were at a year ago, Tom, and what has changed in the last year, let alone, the last 3 months. It's incredible how quickly things are changing from a technology perspective.
Yeah. And
Well, from
regulation
that
is gonna
standpoint,
play.
it's almost like you can't plan. I find it almost impossible to plan for 10 years from now, which I will be 65. But like, if I tried to plan 10 months ago for today, I would have been wrong. Would have been way wrong.
Right.
I mean, Janet, you're seeing this. I mean, talk about disruption. Has there anything since the advent of the internet that's been more disruptive than AI? And what does that mean for us?
No, I think AI, I mean, I hear people, I'll just say, without telling my age, Tom, since you kind of told yours, but we're in that same neighborhood. And I hear people our age say all the time, "Oh, thank God, I'm going to be out of the workforce for this AI thing because I just can't wait to retire. I don't want to be any part." And for me, it's the complete opposite. I'm like so bummed that I don't get to see what's going to happen with AI, like in the professional workforce, because I may retire in 10 years, maybe a little less. But I feel the opposite. Like I cannot wait to see where this thing goes. Yes, I have fear and trepidation, like all of us do, because we don't really exactly know. I think AI has probably done more in my mind than we originally thought, even like 2 years ago. So 2 years from now, what's it going to be? You know, I don't know. Do I think that companies will still have to outsource work, whether you're in insurance or accounting or yes, I still think that model, hiring people full time to do things no matter how they're doing it. Maybe they are using AI to do the task or to make them more productive. But I still think that there's a place. And I just want to be clear on that point. I just think it's going to look very different.
Yeah.
Less people, probably more boutique agencies kind of bringing together different disciplines. Like similar, Curtis, to probably what you just described, having this agency kind of building this super agency that they're trying
hmm
to do, but maybe on a smaller scale with really unique services like strategic reinvention, go to market opportunities, leadership activation. I mean, I think you're just going to see some really unique, hopefully heady type services offerings. Agents, they're not going to outsource probably like social media, writing the blog, because now we know that AI really will be able to do the ad buy, it's going to be more problem solving, more strategic. I still think there's a place for that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Curtis, do you have anything in response to that? Because I mean, we're seeing that the thing so far, AI hasn't replaced people. It could, it's starting to, but it's made smart people really, really smart, really, really fast. And I think we're being reconditioned just in the real world to expect very short time frames. I mean, we went from a generation where it's like I have to wait till Thursday to watch the next Cheers, and it's Thursday already, right? And
Yeah.
like
Like,
now it's like I
I
want to
want to watch
find
all
out the
10
best place.
episodes.
You're right. Now I can jump into AI and I can not only ask what were the funniest shows on of the in the early 90s, and then I can ask an immediate link to buy it, and then AI can buy it for me, and then it's probably here the next day, and I got the whole catalog. So people are just being reconditioned. So going back to our model, Curtis, is like we have to, and we're already doing this, disrupt the way that client service looks like things that we talked about offline that I won't say used to take us 90 days. Now we're getting done in 9 days because the
Yeah.
client expects that.
And you guys will not be happy to hear what agency what larger agencies are doing now is recognizing, hey Tom, you've got this AI chatbot. We're spending $20 a month for that. I know we said you should be 90% utilized, but we think you could be 94% utilized next year. And the year after that, we're projecting you to just be 100%. So what's happening is the productivity standards are going to come up. I mean, this whole thing of, I'm curious what you guys think about the hype about we're never going to hire junior people again because AI can just replace. I don't know if you think there's a place for that in this Team Lance model where
There's
just 20-year-olds are just, pardon my French, are they just screwed? Like if if they're trying to come into the space because there's no jobs for them? I mean, that
Yeah, you
worries.
mentioned I think the correlation goes to what you just said of the expectation from the client is our role is to be more strategic. It's not just to do work. So if our
Mhm.
role is to be strategic, that strategy comes from experience. So how do these young people come in and are, sought after, needed from these companies? They don't have any experience. They don't have any strategy really that they can bring other than maybe academic. So I think they're
That's in to piggyback off that. It says Janet already accused me of being so freaking old. I will act like the old man and say, when we grew up, not only did we have to learn how to learn, we had to learn how to know. In other words, every fact and figure was not available at our fingertips. So we had to know things. And we had to learn how to problem solve. Today's youth are being rewired to, they don't need to know anything, they don't need to memorize anything, and they don't need to learn because AI does it all for them. My fear is that if I wanted to hire a junior level person, where would I find somebody that has those skills that I might need? Going back to what you said, Curtis, that can think strategically. Well, how can you think strategically if you don't have a depth of knowledge, you don't have a depth of experience, and you never bothered to learn how to learn?
Mhm.
So to answer your question, I think they are kind of screwed unless they can figure out a way, like we did as the internet generation, to prove our value in the mastery of the internet. Remember, there were old people like us back then. It was like, I'm not using email, take down a memo. And then all of a sudden you became really valuable because you knew how to do email and internet. So I'm thinking that those are the people. I don't know what the corollary is, Janet, how you're working with clients, but that's how I see this youth. Today's kids, they better figure out a way, man. I got kids that age. I don't know if
Yes.
they're doing it.
I honestly, I we could sit and pontificate about it all day. I don't really know what the answer is, but I am definitely hearing from agencies, we're not hiring junior people. I'm like, wait, at all, ever? It's just very interesting because that's not what clients want. Is like what you guys are building is it's senior level intelligence that they cannot, necessarily bring on a Curtis and a Tom to work full time, right? Like they're going to bring you in to solve a complex problem, but you might still need someone to help pull use the AI in order to get you smarter, but I'm not sure
Well,
Yeah.
because AI is
it's more
being
of an
so good.
apprentice. I liken it to the trades, right? That these young people are going to have to come in and apprentice. They're not going to be able to
Yeah.
ride solo on an account. You're not assigning a 25-year-old on a client account to project manage it. They're going to have to shadow for a period of a time and apprentice so that they do figure out how to problem solve, like you mentioned, Tom. So they can, they might come in with some really good skill sets because they've grown up with the technology, sort of like we did, and we were thrown in and we knew how to work the remote and our parents didn't. So we
That's
we we
exactly
had that head start, right? So it's like when email came around, it's like, oh, yeah, I know how to press buttons.
right.
Not just the up down button, but I could like put in codes and, you know,
Yep.
process things. So I think they'll face that same thing. They'll probably be better at using the tools that will be available, but those core skills, they're gonna need that close mentorship. And it's whether or not the companies want to invest in that if there's legacy to be passed on. Right.
You know
And
what
so
I
that's
think
where
it
I have to think about my agency. Am I passing this on to somebody else? Is there a legacy for it? Whether that's an existing person who's part of the team, one of my daughters, or, do you just, try and exit with as much as possible and maybe somebody wants to take over, or you just wind it down? I don't know.
something that might be applicable in the future is they passed this prologue thing, and my brother, who's been on the show, works in the big agency world, and a phenomenon he observed years ago was that there's this cycle where, for a time, agencies want to bring everything in house because it's like, oh, well, why would we pay all these consultants? Let's bring it in house. Then we can, scale that person, and I could, get 10x out of them where I can only get 1x out of the consultants and whatever. And then period of time goes by and they realize that because there's too much internal groupthink, they've gotten dumb on certain things and they don't trust their own level of expertise. And they say, well, we need the ninjas. Let's go out and find the person that really knows what they're doing. And so then there's this ebb and flow out to outsourcing, right? It's because they don't trust their internal resources. I think therein, and then it goes back and forth. Therein lies an opportunity, though, for the knowledge worker that has very specialized expertise. I think this would be my advice to my own kids: get really good at something that's very niche and very specialized, that somebody looks at you and says, we can't get that with what we got here, and AI can't do it. I need to hire that person. And I think that's where we position ourselves, Curtis, is the ninjas that people need when they can't get it done themselves.
Yeah. Well, and the people that can lead their teams. So I'm working right now with a crisis firm, and they do way more than PR because they're coming in, and I mean they're literally like they filled a major credibility gap. They don't have this person, Tom, as you just said, in the company. And this firm is coming in, they're working with the leadership team. Sure, they could go to AI and say, oh, there's a smoldering crisis, and type it, and the AI would give them an outline. But no one is in the boardroom leading the people, teaching them about the narrative. What is the process we'll follow? Even if it came from AI, you need that presence, that gravitas, that person that can help, literally bring the troops together to defend, when needed, using the crisis as an example. That is an agency that I think is going to transact and do so very successfully, because it's predominantly, senior people that are delivering, like, in the room, not just here's a plan, good luck, go execute it, see you later. Like what I would imagine, you guys are in the room, so to speak, solving those complex problems and building, narratives and stories, with your clients, right? Like in tandem versus,
That's
sure,
it.
AI is going to tell you how to do it, but and that's where I think, until robots come, and maybe that's going to, I think I'm safe to say I will really be retired when that happens, or possibly dead. But like, we're going to have a crisis robot come to the board meeting. I don't think so. But never say never.
Never say never. I've seen that Tesla one. That he looks pretty. He can dance. I don't know if he can get you out of a crisis,
That
but
thing is spooky. I wouldn't like
I know.
that is like, I no, thank you. I don't know. I
I
saw
feel
what's
like
the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger where the robots,
Terminator.
Terminator.
Terminator,
Yeah.
and gosh, Fifth Elements, those robots are freaky. I guess that's not an Arnold movie, but like, no thank you.
I see it. I feel like, God, we're only like 2 years from the Clone Wars happening. It's
Right.
like, oh my God,
It's
scary thought.
happening.
What? So hopefully don't wish that you are dead because it might come sooner than you think, Janet.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah,
Good point.
You snuck in a Star Wars reference, Tom. I just caught onto that. Good job.
yeah, I did. Now, if I sneak in a yacht rock reference, oh, hey, I just did. Okay.
Oh,
Moving right along. So, I'm curious, Janet, what you're seeing in terms of what in recent years now, because of all of this disruption and the disruption to the disruption, what does the post deal environment look like? So when these agencies, and the reason I'm asking this is because the post deal environment was always kind of tricky, right? It's like, cultures. But now we've got remote workforces, right? Now we've got people looking over their shoulder saying, all right, which one of us is being replaced by AI next? So, like, how are you helping? I don't know if this is something that you do, but how are agencies post acquisition being sort of integrated in a way that's not disruptive, to use the word again?
yeah. Well, I mean, first off, it is disruptive. So let's just say what it is. It's really like I've always say it's very easy to buy a company if you have, the cash to do it or the financing to do it. It's pretty easy to buy a company, but it's really hard to build one company once the deal is done. And I think that's what is overlooked. There's so much time and energy that goes into crossing the finish line to sell any kind of company. And I think companies make the mistake of not really thinking and planning for the integration, the one culture. After the attorneys are gone and everybody has signed their deal and collected their money, it's kind of like, oh, we're supposed to have a plan for this, I think, right? And because I'm, this communicator in recovery or whatever, I often ask, so what does day one look like? That's not what I do now. I'm really more transactional, but I can't help myself. I still put that hat on occasion, and they just look like, yeah, wow, I'm so tired from just doing this deal. Like we haven't even had time to think about it. And I just go, what? Let maybe you need to call Tom and Curtis. I don't know, but like that is definitely kind of oftentimes coming up as an afterthought. Even with professional communications companies who do this delivery for the cobbler has no shoes. They're not
Yep.
really
So,
thinking about it for they're just still working on their clients M&A, but they might not have thought about like their own, like, what are we going to do? And it has to be intentional. It has to be planned. Milestones have to be created for how we know we are actually working towards something. Because to the point of what Curtis was saying, in an earnout like situation, it won't be successful if people quit, clients quit, AI, I mean, all the disruption, I don't know. I just think it can't be an afterthought.
yeah. Well, just word of advice, you may not want to take it, but I wouldn't call Curtis and I because we will come in and say, fire all your employees and extract yourself from the partnership. So
Just get out,
easy
like,
peasy. Yeah.
because of your own bad personal experience? I hope not.
My personal experience was, yeah. And again, I fully concede the problem was me all along, but so I recognize that.
Well,
So no
self-aware,
one has
that's
to
what they're
be
called, the
like,
blind spot. You were blind. You didn't now
yep,
you see.
yep, yep. I should have listened to my brother. He told me I would never want to own anything less than 51% of anything. And he was
Really?
right.
I did go
All
get a
right,
job
Curtis,
in
any,
between. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
but no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say Curtis was talking about I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur. I'm not sure. I'm a resistant entrepreneur. I'm not sure what I would call that, but I did take a job to see, like, could I work for somebody else? What would that be like? In between when I sold my agency and actually picked up executive coaching and group coaching, a lot of what I'm doing now. And it's just been very interesting. I could work for someone else, as it turns out, and I did okay. I never slept so good. 'Cause, like,
Yeah.
somebody would quit, and I'd be like, "Oh, bummer." When it happened in my firm, Tom, because you quit on me,
Right.
I am like, "Oh my god, what do you mean you're leaving?" Like, it was so hard for me to separate. So it was a very good experience for me to take that job working for another team, great people, by the way, that I went to go work for, but it was an experiment. Like, could I even do this? I'd really not done it in almost 20 years. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm
Well,
still now very independent, so maybe I can't work for somebody else is the bottom line.
being the copywriter that I am, I'd like to rephrase quit on me to pursued another opportunity.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Yes, you did pursue
All right.
another opportunity, and I
Mhm.
was as happy as I was for you. I had a difficult time, and I was younger then. But separating my own personal interest into like this is probably what is best for him. Like at the time when it happens, I was
Yeah.
younger, and I think I just took those things really personally. Like
Well,
I don't know.
this is morphing into a therapy session, so let's go there. So
Let's do it.
I just I was so young at the time. To me, it didn't matter what the right thing for me was. It was like because I loved Franco and I loved you and I loved our boss at the time and I loved my favorite colleague Tracy. Um, but like this on the other side was this like my best friend from high school was offering me to like have this real slacker lifestyle at a 3-person startup. I'm like, yes, I'm young. I got no, let's do it. So
That was
it
good.
was tough for me as well.
Yeah, but
So
well, the lesson for me there is that you were highly poachable at that time, right? Like, and so I spent a long time after leaving Franco and getting into airfoil, starting airfoil. We spent a lot of time thinking about retention strategies and how we're going to hang on to good people through non-voting equity and programs, golden handcuff programs or whatever you want to call them. But
mhm, yeah.
agencies are smart to do that because if you've got a revolving door and you do want to sell, you will not sell. That is an absolute barrier to entry. If you're churning clients and employees, you're dead in the water. You could even have a strong EBITDA, but it would be very difficult to transact your company.
Well, I know one agency that might be in trouble. Anyways, Curtis, wrap us up here. Where's your head at this as the team lancer that you are? What's going through your mind? AI is disrupting your daily life. What's your
Yeah,
takeaway?
like I said, I think there's 5 or 10 years more for me in this. I'd like to keep plugging away with it. Um, I love the thought process that we had earlier. That I think it was you said, Tom. My advice for my kids would be to really kind of niche down in something. And I actually see my 2 daughters, who are both teenagers, really doing that. They're like figuring out what are they really passionate about and starting to say, okay, could I make a career out of this? And then they're not necessarily seeking to learn those skills in school. They're picking up books at the library. They're, watching YouTube videos of people who are in those careers currently. And I had my 14-year-old put together a business plan the other day and
Love
presented
it.
it to me how she's going to make $1 million by the time she's 30. Right. So there's an entrepreneur in her, which
Queen.
I didn't have. Right. And, so I
She will
think,
too.
okay, well,
I've met the young lady. She will do this. But
yeah.
sorry, go ahead, Curtis.
I love it.
But no, I think for me, it's like, well, how could I take what I learned in all the businesses that I've supported over the years, both from a technology perspective as well as a sales and marketing perspective, and just lean into that? Say, okay, how can I help you guys grow a business, right? And I don't know. I often wonder if this disruption will cause what existed, 100 years ago, where families had businesses and they built family wealth, and they all worked together like it, and then everybody spread out and they moved away, and you went and you had a career opportunity in Chicago, you went there, then you went to San Francisco, and Denver looked attractive, you took a job there, and everybody spread out. Could AI bring us closer together? Say like, well, we don't have to travel to these places, we could work remotely, but is if I'm going to be an apprentice and I need to learn these skills, maybe I learn them from a parent or a brother or sister, and I get into the family business. There could be something there, and maybe we see more of that kind of tighter, closer, protecting wealth and protecting businesses, and moving forward that way. I don't know.
My next,
Super smart, Curtis. I
yeah.
love that. It's that the silver tsunami, the boomers that are all selling their dry cleaning businesses, their gas stations, their electrician shops or
Yeah,
plumbers.
HVAC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
HVAC, like that is a huge and there's actually competition for those businesses now. It used to be the parents begging, "Please, Tom, take over the family business. It's going to be."
Mhm.
And now they have these kids that are the of these silver student, like there's competition for those businesses. They're teaching that at Harvard. They're teaching it at Stanford. These like 4-year or the MBA students are coming out of college looking for those businesses with SBA
Mhm.
or family money. Like that's how they're starting their careers, which is so interesting. And it's a huge societal shift that you've just identified, in my opinion too. Amen.
Yep. I was going to say the same thing. I'm actually been toying around with my next endeavor once I get obsoleted by AI, if I haven't already. And it's a
I'm
family
trying,
business.
Tom. I'm trying to obsolete you.
I
We're
know that
cloning you.
with partners like you, who needs enemies? I mean, geez. But yes, but it's a family business. It's a local, has to be a local business, and it would be something that literally AI would not be capable of doing. And that's all
Yep.
I'm going to say on that.
Yep.
So, all right. So final thoughts for you, Janet. So if you, regardless of an agency, if they are target, if they are, on an acquisition, what would you, if you walked into an agency meeting blind tomorrow, what would be something that you would say, so something you must do next week?
Mm. Well, I mean, retaining clients and employees, building a strong management team, making sure that you are not at the center, which was a mistake I think I made in my agency. This fear of delegation or, any new business pitch, I had to be in the room kind of mentality. Actually, when I'm looking to sell an agency, I'm actually looking for owners that are not that. I actually want to see a really strong bench of leaders who are the future of the firm. The reason why that person is selling is because they're tired, they're older, they think AI is coming and they want to sell quickly, but that still matters along with profit margin and all the financial metrics. But it's, really, and also maybe a proven history of not being afraid to disrupt yourselves, because if the agency is afraid, like, oh, we've always been in consumer, this is all we've done, and maybe there's the signals are showing them they should be in health and wellness consumer or something like that. But no one knows us that way. It's like, don't be afraid to disrupt yourself and show us patterns of being able to do that and have success at doing so.
Yep. That's
And
a great
most
place to live.
agencies, they just kind of keep trotting along doing what they've been doing, but
Yeah.
that's not very interesting anymore.
And now is not the time to be doing that. That's for sure. So that's a good place to leave it, I think. Thank you, Janet, Tyler. TrueDepth.com is the website, right? We'll link to that in the show notes, and we will link to your LinkedIn as well. So you should definitely connect with Janet on LinkedIn and elsewhere. I think I'm going to embrace your final thought, Janet. I'm Curtis. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be totally disruptive of our brand, and I'm going to thank everyone for listening to this week's Bullseyes and Bullhorns. See what I did?
Thanks for having me.
See ya.